name is Dr. Makwata, optometrist of Fini Hospital and Fertility Center, and this week marks the celebration of World Glaucoma Week. And World Glaucoma Week is a global initiative that has been set aside to create awareness on glaucoma. And did you know that glaucoma is the second leading cause of preventable blindness globally? Today we are going to talk about glaucoma. We're going to talk about what glaucoma is, the risks, the signs, and then also the management of glaucoma. Alright, so let's talk about what is glaucoma. Glaucoma is a group of eye disease that causes damage to the optic nerve and leads to progressive and irreversible loss of vision. So now let's look at how this happens. So when we take the human eye, okay, these are the various parts of the human eye, and the most important part, which is the optic nerve, which we made mention that glaucoma damages the optic nerve. Okay, so we have the retina, where whatever you are looking at, the images you are looking at, okay, when they fall on the retina, they all come together and then go through the optic nerve. Then from the optic nerve, the information or the signals moves to the brain for you to see clearly. Okay, so when we talk about glaucoma, it's a cut-off of the optic nerve from the brain. So therefore, there is no communication between the eyeball and then the brain. And for you to see, it is a combination of the eyeball and then the brain. So glaucoma, like we said, is a damage to the optic nerve. Alright, so now let's look at the causes of glaucoma. Glaucoma does not really have a major cause, but it has major risk factors. So when we say risk factors, those are the things that put you at higher risk of developing glaucoma. And some of these risk factors includes the family history of glaucoma, that is hereditary. So if you have a family member who has glaucoma, it's likely you will also get that from the family member if you also develop glaucoma. That's the more reason why you have to have regular checkups. And then also higher intraocular pressure. So there are some people, when they check their eyes, they have high pressure within their eyeballs. And this pressure is like a fluid that is supposed to nourish the eyeball and then also to keep the shape of the eyeball. But there are some people, once the eye pressure or the fluid is being produced to nourish the eye, there is a point where it has to leave the eye. But in this case, there's a fluid retention. The fluid is not able to leave the eyeball, and so therefore it generates a lot of fluid within the eyeball, causing this high pressure. And this happens in very few people. And also age, when you are aging and you are above 40 years, you are at a risk of developing glaucoma. And also excessive use of corticosteroids. There are some people who uses a lot of eye drops that are not being prescribed by doctors or health practitioners, and these eye drops may contain steroids, and these steroids puts you at risk of developing glaucoma. And then also there are some people who have myopia, high myopia. So high myopia people cannot see from far. These high myopias, their prescriptions are very high, and so therefore they put them at higher risk of also developing glaucoma. So last but not the least, has to do with the race of the individual. So the race of the individual also put the person at risk of developing glaucoma. So blacks are more of higher risk than their fellow Caucasian. So if you're a black person, it's likely you will develop glaucoma more than a white person. Alright, so let's look at the signs and symptoms of the glaucoma. So when it comes to glaucoma, with the symptoms, glaucoma is termed to be asymptomatic, meaning it does not come with any symptoms. So normally it comes with only signs. That is why you have to always check your eye. So when it comes to the signs are the things that the doctors, when we do our assessments, we notice them, and then we can say that this person is likely to develop glaucoma. So the major signs that we normally see are increased intraocular pressure, which is the one I mentioned earlier, whereby there is a fluid retention in the eyeball, and whenever we check the eye pressure in an individual, we notice that the person has very high intraocular pressure or high IOPs. And then also there is a large cap to disc ratio. So this large cap to disc ratio is something that we see within your eyeball, which is the optic nerve. we see some changes within this optic nerve, that is the nerve which is leading to the brain for you to see clearly. We begin to see that there's some gap, there's some space being created within the nerve. And then also we have something we call shadow angle, which also happens in some people. So when we see shadow angle, these are spaces where the fluid is supposed to move out of the eyeball. So there's a place that we call splenic canal and then trabecular mesh, whereby there's an angle being created for the fluid to leave the eyeball. If this angle is very shallow or small, it may also cause the person to also develop glaucoma. And then there are some instances where people also have very red eyes and then severe pain. These ones are very rare, and this one happens in other kinds of glaucoma. So what we are talking about is primary open angle glaucoma, but there are some cases where there is an acute angle glaucoma, which this red eye often happens. Alright, so management of glaucoma. So glaucoma has no cure, but early detection and management is very important, and it can help to preserve your sight. That is why we always advise that you check your eyes so that doctors will be able to detect the optic nerve, whether they are deteriorating or they are damaging and all that. Normally, the optic nerve does not entirely deteriorate, but it is a progression. It deteriorates progressively. That is why we always advise that you come early so that the doctors will be able to see whether they are deteriorating, and then the proper management can be given. So when it comes to the management, mostly the doctors prescribe medications or eye drops that will help to manage the situation. So consistent and persistent use of anti-glaucoma is very important here. And then also regular reviews with your optometrists or ophthalmologists and then your ophthalmic nurses. Then also surgery. This is the situation whereby doctors create channels within the eye so that the drainage or the fluid retention or the fluid that has been retained in the eye, causing high blood pressure, can easily move out so that you don't need to use a lot of eye drops. Mostly the eye drops are supposed to bring down the high pressures down so that they do not deteriorate the optic nerve. So in conclusion, it is very important to prioritize your eye care regime, and it's very important to go for regular eye checkups by visiting your optometrists, ophthalmologists, ophthalmic nurses to detect these eye diseases early. Because in glaucoma, early detection is very important, since glaucoma is a progressive damage to your optic nerve. And at Fini Eye Care, we are dedicated to providing top-notch eye care services to help you achieve your optimal vision. Thank you so much.